Hello, everyone. It's me, Kirsten, and this is the It's Giving Mystical podcast, and this is your podcast for the week of June 14th, the card of the week. Okay, let's just take a second. June is flying by at a rapid pace, and it's just, you know what I'm going to say. It's so interesting, but it is. It's so interesting to think about this energy of the lovers and the energy of temperance coming together. This question around the choices you're making, this question around the path you walk, and your flexibility in walking it, meaning you make a choice and then you walk that path and life reveals itself to you and you dance with the energies. And sometimes that's really harmonious. Forgive me, I have a little bit of a head cold, so my voice is not what it usually is. Sometimes those movements are really harmonious and feels really good. And sometimes we find ourselves up against the energy in a way that doesn't feel good, or up against the energy in a way that feels restrictive or frustrating, or frustrating is a really good word. That's like the energy I can feel is like kind of banging your head against it or trying to like open a door that won't unlock. And there's a way in which that path was chosen, not because it's a mistake, but that path was chosen to show you how you are different and how maybe the choices you're making might be built on assumption more than they are on the present reality, more than they are on what is true now. And there's just something about the awareness and the flexibility required to meet life as it comes and to say, what is really happening here? Let me look around, let me take stock, let me be with what is, and let me just notice what's really going on. It sounds so simple, but it's really important. The stories in our lives, we are meaning-making creatures, which means that we are constantly trying to build a story. We are constantly trying to make sense of our lives through the story we are narrating to ourselves in our mind, subconsciously, unconsciously. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, it helps us deal with the complexity and the chaos of life. One of the things that you know if you study any kind of trauma resolution work is that integrating the trauma into a cohesive narrative is so important to a healing experience, because the way that the brain stores trauma is different. It stores it in this disparate, confusing way, which makes it very hard for it to be integrated, be linked into the narrative. So there's a disconnect between the way you thought the world was, the way the world was supposed to be, the way you are, the way you're supposed to be, and the event that happened. And that's not to say that, you're making this up. That's a very real experience. When we're injured, when we're violated, there's a sense of, I was trying to live in a world where I was safe. I was trying to make safety in my world. I was trying to tell a story of safety, and that has been shaken. And our brain literally stores that differently than it does a more day-to-day, a more repetitive, a more expected event. And I'm saying this to you because the story is so powerful, right? It's an incredible tool, an incredible medicine, is retelling the story, is expanding the possibility around the story, is even knowing what the story is you're telling, because most people don't even know the story they're telling themselves. They are really lost in the dream they're making, lost in the illusion they're weaving for themselves. And that's so cool. That's so human nature. That's all of us. And yet there's a way to be present and deep in your breath and in the moment in which you're able to at least witness the story, at least gain just that little bit of distance from the story to say that's just a story. It's just one possibility in an infinite universe. I say all of this because when we're making choices, when the Lovers Month is saying to us, where are you going? Where are you headed? How are you navigating? The question of how you're navigating becomes really important. Are you navigating on assumptions and ideas of the way it's supposed to be, who you have been? Or are you allowing for the dynamic nature of you? Are you allowing for the dynamic nature of life? Are you allowing for the dynamic nature of your desires? Especially when you start getting more intentional about who you are and how you show up and the life you're creating, the beautiful dream. Because again, we're all weaving a dream. It's not like some of us are lost in the dream and they're not doing great work and the rest of us are like nailing it. It's not like that. We're all weaving meaning. We're all weaving a dream. We're all creating a reality. Some of us are just more aware of our power, our role, our responsibility in that. And some of us haven't been shown that possibility. And one of the things I hate, and I don't hate a lot of things, but I really dislike in spiritual talk, in self-development, in the world of self-actualization, when there are these underlying, we're doing it better vibes. If you're eating this way, you're doing it better. If you're breathing this way, you're doing it better. If you're facing your shadow, you're doing it better. If you're, living with more light and love, you're doing it better. I mean, are you? Are we? What? Like, who are we measuring ourselves against? And if we're measuring other people, we are just holding that very harsh yardstick to our own lives as well. So much of this is like, let's go easy on ourselves. Let's go easy on each other. And so I come to this analogy of the path, of choosing the fork in the road, and the awareness the lover's energy always brings to the choices you're making. Keep your choices alive, like allow them to stay alive, so that as you make a choice, you feel into the match, that the harmony that choice is or isn't for you, and you adjust accordingly. And again, not like you chose wrong, not like do it better, but just like, am I really awake and aware in this moment? Does this feel like it's where I need to be? Does this feel like a good match to me? Does this feel like it's lacking some, integrity again? Is there a question I'm not asking in this space? Is there a conversation I'm not having in this space? Is there something that is unsaid? So just be aware that the Temperance card is bringing alchemy to this conversation, discussion, awareness around your choices. You really might notice your choices being your teacher this month. And you might notice that as you navigate in one direction, you're realizing the satisfaction of the harmony that is or isn't present there. And you're allowing life, magic, energy, you to birth new energies, birth new choices, birth new desires. And the alchemy of that is an alchemy of patience. Temperance card, dude, one of the reasons people struggle with it is because it is a call to patience. And many of us, me too, are not particularly patient beings. We can get in this feeling of time is moving too fast, or it's passing us by, or if I can just get to that, then I can get to the next thing. And I just want to call your attention to that. Again, not because it's wrong or right, but because just notice that. Does that feel good? Does that feel good? Is that feeding you? Is it satisfying you? Is it nurturing you? Is it allowing you to be your best self? And chances are anything that's pitting us into what needs to happen next in a way that equals our peace or equals our happiness or equals our joy is a trick. It's a trick. You really want to imagine that so much of your work is happening here on the horizontal. So much of your work is happening here on the how much more can I feel what's true right now? How much more fully can I breathe in this moment? How much more fully can I take responsibility for what life wants with me and of me and for me and from me? The star card was the star week. The energy of that week was an invitation to rest, to reground yourself, to find your faith again. That feels really true. Find your faith again. Find your faith in whatever you find faith in. Yourself, God, nature, the world, family, or people. What do you find faith in? And the star card was like a soaking yourself in that energy, like, right. This is what makes me feel held and safe in the world. And I want to remember that connection, remember that tether, feel into that. And the energy that I pulled for us this week is the Ace of Wands. That is exciting, that is happy, that is joyful, that is inspiring, that is sexual, that is generative. The Ace of Wands is pure fire. So when divinity, God, source hands us a spark, like a firefly, like, hey, look at that. And it wants you to awaken and warm and become aware of the spark and decide whether it's something you want to nurture into a flame. It's very, very positive energy, the Ace of Wands. Wands energy in itself is actually more difficult to manage the more you have of it. So think about a fire, right? A spark, a light, it's just a baby thing. And it's easy to manage and also delicate and also vulnerable. But as the flame gets bigger, it gets harder and harder for us to manage. And it's not a perfect analogy for the wand suits, but it's an interesting one and it's a relevant one for right now. So you're handed this spark, this just idea of what might be. And then you decide how much of your energy you want to put into it. And I just bring up what I said before about choices because stay flexible. Like stay nimble. Recognize that sometimes you'll have a little spark and you'll feed it more wood and it will get too heavy. And you'll need to what it needs is more air. Or maybe you think it needs more air and what it needs is more fuel. Like, who knows? But that idea of, can I stay nimble with this thing, this live, moving thing, and decide how much I want to feed it, how much I want to let it rest? What am I doing with this little flame? And the wands are our life force energy. It's our fire energy. So it's, when I first started talking about tarot, like publicly, my cousin had a birthday and I wrote to her, I think it was in an Instagram post like so long ago, like the ace, she was walking into her Ace of Wands year. And the Ace of Wands is all good things that grow. So there's something about the Ace of Wands that sets in motion so much. Like, it has a lot of legs, the Wands energy. It is incredibly dynamic. So it's your creativity, it's your inspiration, it's your sexuality, it's your passion. It's what turns you on and lights you up in life. Ace of Wands is a very sexual card, so not safe for work ishness. It's a very phallic card. It has the energy of vital life force moving through. So you can think about the life force that comes through the new shoot in the earth, in the garden. You can also think about the vitality that comes through the phallus. Like, there's something about that explosion of energy, that explosion of life force, of like the idea of something new coming through. It's a very flirty card. The Ace of Wands is the energy. I've been watching this like TV show. It's so junky, but I love it. It's like the whole friends to lovers or enemies to lovers thing. It's like that moment in a book or in your life or in fiction, in the movies, when you see two people and they don't like each other and there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden there's one look and a spark. And there's one movement and there's a spark. It's similar to that. So the way that life, you're just like cruising along on your path, you choose your little lover's path, and boom, there's something. And boom, there's something else. And it's like this idea of, are you meeting the thing? And then you decide, right? So you make eye contact with that sexy stranger, or you see your partner with new eyes for a moment, and you get that heat, that light, that warmth, that sexy warmth inside of you. And then you decide, do I feed that flame? A woman was in Circle last month, I think, and she was talking about her relationship. And she was just kind of coming to the realization that she was withholding. Like, she had things she wanted from the relationship, but she also didn't want to be vulnerable enough to give those things to the relationship. You've probably come across this idea of 100% responsibility, meaning that a relationship is not 50% my responsibility and 50% your responsibility. But the way that a relationship really thrives and takes off is when I'm willing to bring 100%. I am 100% responsible for the state of our relationship, and you are 100% responsible, which means that I don't get to blame you. I don't get to write off bad energy or stuckness or resistance on you. I'm aware and beyond the victim triangle. Like, I've stepped out of that dynamic, and I realize that for something to work, I have to want it. I have to be devoted to it. I have to be willing to put energy into it, and I have to be willing to take responsibility for it. It's a very high bar. It is a very high bar. But if you are gesturing towards that, if you are moving towards that, if you are willing to take 80% responsibility instead of the 10% that most people take. Sorry, it's so harsh. But it's true, right? So what would happen if I began to hold that heat and realize the ways I was withholding fuel from that fire or adding fuel to that fire, and take responsibility for, like, this is the way I want to live. This is the kind of love I want to give. This is the kind of passion I want to have. And you begin to feed that with your intentionality, with your energy, and again, in the choices you make. The choices you make. I was watching a show with my son, and he was like so upset because the little boy on the show wanted to sit with the mom, and the mom was like, no, I need a minute to myself. And he's like, would you ever do that to me? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I probably would say sometimes I need to be by myself. I go, but what you're responding to is, because my poor kids, they say like one thing, and I'm like, let's discuss. Poor children. I'm like, teaching moment. But there's that idea of a bid for connection, which means we can measure the health of our relationships on how often our partner or even our family members or people we love turn towards our bids for connection. So when I say, I want to tell you a story, or I sit down next to you and I try to hold your hand, or I say, can I sit with you for a little while? Or I tell you a joke, or I, smile at you. Those are all bids for connection. It means I'm turning towards you and opening my heart and opening my energy towards you with, hi, do you see me? Like, I'm here, I love you. And your response, for the most part, becomes a turning towards that. So a sense of, yeah, I see you, baby. I see you. I'm with you. Like, I'll sit with you. Or if I can't sit with you, I'll let you know that why I can't sit with you and what's on my mind. There's a way in which we're going to turn towards each other. We're We're going to ask for something, and we're going to recognize and honor that the vulnerability it takes to be asked to be with you, to be asked to connect with you. And you're feeding that connection. So when, you interrupt your partner, they're trying to tell you a story and you interrupt them, or when you're looking at your phone and your child's trying to tell you a story, that's a disruption in the bid for connection. And it can be done purposefully, like aggressively and purposefully. It's definitely something that happens in relationships, or it can be done absentmindedly, but the impact is the same. The impact is I turn towards you with my open heart and you turn away, or you face away, or somehow your heart doesn't meet mine, and you're kind of left standing there, right? You're left standing there like, I was trying to feel love in that moment. I was trying to give love in that moment. I was trying to receive love in that moment. And that can be like, the flower analogy, right? Like it can be a drawback, like, ooh, ouch, it hurt. It's just a little thing. It's not like it doesn't have to be a big moment. But what they say is relationship health is directly correlated with how often you turn towards the bid for connection versus turn away from the bid for connection. I say all this to you again, like this card is about sexuality and passion and connection for sure, but it's also about turning towards life, right? Turning towards our inspiration, turning towards what lights us up and turns us on. And that's way bigger than just the other people in our life. As much as that's beautiful and important and fantastic, there are other things that speak to us about life. There are other things that light us up, that snap their fingers and we say, oh, yes. And it can be an idea, it can be a creative act, it can be just this moment of, oh, I see. And just building off the Star Week, coming into this Ace of Wands week, that is just lovely. It is just lovely, especially given what we said last week about the Star card reminding you that your path is so carefully orchestrated. There are no mistakes. So something about that, walking into the Ace of Wands year, Ace of Wands year, interesting. Ace of Wands week is to just pay attention. Pay attention to what lights you up. Pay attention to your roots, your faith, your comfort, your safety. And from that place, pay attention to what lights you up and watch how that is its own nimble, flexible thing. It ebbs and flows. It's a spark. It hasn't built itself into a flame yet with the Ace of Wands. So yeah, the Ace of Wands is beautiful for passion. It is beautiful for art making. It's beautiful for ideas. It's beautiful for brainstorming. It's beautiful for any initial creative act. So I offer that to you, and keep your eyes open. The Ace of Wands is literally God, source, handing you this gift. So it's saying, look here. Here is a firefly. Here is a spark. Here is the beginning of something. What do you want to do with it? And then you can decide. You can decide what you want. And some of them will burn out. Like sometimes you'll take the spark and you'll blow on it and enjoy it. And then a week later, what was I thinking? Or it will become something that you nurture and tend to for many, many years to come. All good. Like there's no mistakes, right? So we're just kind of navigating. And that's that Lover's energy and that Temperance energy. Just very patiently, very curious, just navigating. Oh, that lights me up. That turns me on. That's interesting. I want to spend time with that. I want to give energy to that. And when I hit that resistance, when I hit that wall of why is this so hard, I step back and I breathe and I think about it. Am I in the right place? Am I tending to the right thing? Am I actually where life is most alive for me? Maybe, maybe not. But it's something to think about, something to be aware of. Ace of Wands, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous energy. Sexy, sexy, sexy energy. Get yourself turned on this week. I know it. It'll happen. It's cool. Let me know. Talk to you soon.